recently, we had become a fan of the Trollhunters and Tales of Arcadia series. The entire series got us hooked from the very beginning.
Being a recent fan, it was both a blessing and a curse to watch the entire series straight through.
By the time we got to the movie, we were so hyped to finish the series on a good note.
Only to be caught up with every other Arcadia fan and be completely disappointed with the TrollHunters Rise of the Titans movie.
However, while we were watching the movie,
we only got to the end of the series a couple of weeks ago, mind you,
we couldn't help but notice a few similarities the plot of the Trollhunters movie had to Spider-Man No Way Home. Now bear in mind, I'm not saying that they were exactly the same story, or that Spider-Man was a rip-off and everything was exactly the same. I'm not saying that at all. Actually, the stories are quite different from each other. But the overall plot structure of the story, the hero's journey of it all, felt vaguely familiar.
At first it was only a few subtle similarities, but then it kept coming and coming.
Until we finally reached the end and, well, let's just say it felt like we watched Trollhunters No Way Home. By the end of it, we couldn't help but think, if Trollhunters Rise of the Titans could follow so many similarities to No Way Home,
then why did it feel like a complete train wreck while the other is still considered to be one of the best movies in history?
Well, in this video, we will tell you why we believe if Trollhunters did some of the same things as Spider-Man, it may have been a better finale.
First, let's talk about the villains and the main problem the hero had to face in the movie. The story starts in the thick of the problem from where we last left off in the series. Kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home.
The Trollhunters, Wizards, and Three Below team have to defeat the Arcane Order before they find Nari and awake the Titans. Now here is the first problem. The movie is called Trollhunters Rise of the Titans, with the story heavily leaning to Jim as the main character. The Arcane Order were the villains introduced for the Wizards series, a series where the problem was based around the battle between magic and humankind. In Wizards, trolls were sort of the side note rather than being the main protagonist. When we start with Spider-Man's story, the plot has been set up with a problem Spider-Man had to face as a result of Spider-Man's actions.
Second, the loss of something that made the hero who he was. In No Way Home, Peter's secret identity was what separated his hero life from his normal life. When Mysterio revealed his identity, he lost his whole life as a normal teen. It was sort of the opposite end of the spectrum for Jim.
With the loss of the amulet, he lost his whole life as a hero and felt he was no longer the troll hunter without the amulet.
Both of these heroes throughout the course of the movies tried to fix their problems, yet made them worse.
However, I can't compare Jim making a few errors when he's devising his battle plans to Peter almost breaking the freaking universe.
But the difference between the two is while one resolves the problem by taking responsibility for their actions,
the other thought the only way to fix their consequences was to undo it all. And this makes Jim not grow into the greater hero he could have become, giving him the illusion that there's always a quick way out of things. A quick fix.
If life was like that, this movie would have rewritten its ending by now and we wouldn't have to be talking about this.
Rise of the Titans was supposed to be the movie that brought together all the heroes of the Tales of Arcadia world. When you bring a main character to the screen, they need to have a reason of being there.
Even though they tried to combine the reason of all the characters being there, their roles felt weak, making their appearance overcrowded.
Krell and Arj's role felt the weakest, mainly because they were fighting for a world that wasn't really their home.
Even though Krell said the Earth was like his home, even though it really wasn't.
There was no other reason for them to be there other than they providing a few tech and reinforcements. If there was something from Arcadian 5 that was at stake in any way, it would have been a stronger reason for them to fight.
The character Dukesy also felt like a side note too. Being that this was a fight of villains from his world, Dukesy should have been the main character or at least the co-main character.
The other of the sub-main characters too felt like their need of being there was no more than a long cameo that dragged on. Therefore, their character arcs felt rushed, like Steve's pregnancy or Walter's engagement to Jim's mum Barbara.
So how did Spider-Man get away with 5 villains, 3 sub-characters and 2 co-characters? Well, they paced it out evenly through the movie. Each villain had its own amount of screen time, giving a reason of their wants in Peter's world.
The 4 main characters, Peter and the gang, were meant to be there because it was their movie.
And the epic crossover of the other 2 main Peters happened in the 3rd act, when Peter needed emotional and actual reinforcements. The other 2 Peters, even though they were still main characters, let the movie heavily focus on Peter 1 as the lead. Spider-Man never tried to make all 3 franchises in one, but one franchise combining the main elements of the 3.
4. The loss of loved ones. The problem with having too many main characters is that it's easy to lose track of their whereabouts.
So from a writer's perspective, it just seems easier to kill them off, which hurts the viewers most because the characters that we have grown emotionally attached to just die.
What's worse, the more main characters that just die, the less justified their death seemed to be.
Nomura's death was a you'll blink and you'll miss it moment. Strickler, we didn't even get official confirmation that he died. We just presumed, giving us false hope that he may come back at the end of the movie.
Archie and his father getting stuck in the troll market, which wasn't a death scene, but they made it out like it was. And to be honest, it was a little bit of an overreaction, like they can't bring him back sometime later. And then there was Nari's death, which was probably the most justified, so I'll give you that one.
But all these deaths combined made the truly most dramatic one a mess full of emotions. Tobey's death.
With all those people we had so quickly lost, his death felt like another number in the death toll. Yes, Tobey's death was probably the most dramatic in the movie. I kind of thought it heavily mirrored Aunt May's death in No Way Home. But at least Aunt May's death was the only death in No Way Home. That's why it was the saddest and most emotional point in the movie.
Tobey's felt so unjustified. Throughout this movie, Tobey's character arc was that he never really felt like the hero, but more of a sidekick. They almost killed Tobey off to make it out like he'd die a hero's death, but honestly, throughout the entire series, he was always the hero, so his death was just non-essential.
And Jim resetting the timeline meant he died for nothing. His sacrifice wouldn't have mattered because the series of events that followed wouldn't have made him any more of the hero, since Jim has already been through it and probably would have taken over again. The story was about Jim growing to be the hero he was supposed to become by the actions he took as the Troll Hunter.
By wiping the whole timeline to become not even the Troll Hunter, Jim doesn't grow or learn the true meaning of becoming a hero.
Peter Parker, however, had taken the right approach. Instead of asking Doctor Strange to go back in time and stop him from ever being bit by that spider, he instead takes responsibilities for his actions and learns to deal with the results. That's why it feels a lot better that MJ and Ned doesn't actually remember their endeavors with Peter, because we still have an emotional connection to these characters, the same way Peter does.
Unlike Trollhunters, where we were back at the beginning again with no emotional ties other than you almost had an amazing life, but it didn't work out.
Compare that to Spider-Man, where there's a future possibility they could remember one day. Trollhunters takes us all the way back to the beginning and leaves us on a completely open cliffhanger that can lead us literally anywhere. Letting Tobey take the amulet was not a way of fixing everything like Peter did. What's worse, in the episode of The Unbecoming, we learned that only Jim was able to succeed because he was the only one who could be the Troll Hunter. If not, the whole world would have fallen into chaos.
The whole point of this story is that Jim was supposed to be the Troll Hunter. What is so wrong is that after all this, he doesn't know the first and final lesson of being a hero: responsibility. And the saying with great power comes great responsibility isn't just a theme for Spider-Man, but for all heroes facing adversity. Because Jim now knows what's gonna happen, how it should happen, and how it will happen. Handing over the reins and hoping that it might work out is not stepping up to the responsibilities and gifts you're given as a hero. The benefit of going back in time is that he can fix everything and do things right the first time.
It's funny to think that this film was actually inspired to be a Marvel Avengers style crossover.
Now that you think about it, you can actually see a lot of similarities between the two.
Actually, do you remember when we first watched this? I actually said to you, those three remind me of Peter, Ned, and MJ.
Also, the part, so this is actually like the part with Ned, he lives with his grandma, yeah? Doesn't like,
yeah, Ned
Tony
lived with, yes!
They live both with their grandparents. Okay, I did not realize that until literally just now.
And there was like the time stone and Thor's hammer that looks like Tobey's hammer, and Claire's powers is like Doctor Strange's portal powers.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many similarities. I think it's kind of ironic that Marvel made a movie with themes so close to this only a year later.
If only Trollhunters did come out a year after Spider-Man No Way Home, that way they could have taken notes from that movie to make the Trollhunters one better.
Also, I sort of think it's hilarious that Alfred Molina actually played in both of these movies. So, Alfred, let us know, which one did you actually prefer?
Anyway, if you think Trollhunters, the ending of the series, was better than we thought, then let us know in the comments.
I mean, I highly doubt it. I think of it as it never existed in the first place.
Kind of tarnished the rest of the series as well.
Still love the original series pretty much all the way through, but I am just gonna pretend the movie never, ever, ever existed. Doctor Strange, wipe it for me. Wipe the timeline.
Wipe the timeline.
Anyway, let us know what you would have preferred in the movie instead. Otherwise, see you in the next video. Bye!